This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 57 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network. We would like to thank our sponsors, Kentucky Performance Products. They offer supplements designed to give you the most value for your dollars. Visit them at kppusa.com.
Up in what you would call a bronze position for the Nations Cup. So I was very, very proud of the Canadian team there. And we also had a third place in the Grand Prix Special, as well as 7th and 11th in the Grand Prix Freestyle. And so it was a...
This is Chris Stafford in Lexington, Kentucky.
And I'm Debbie McDonald in Haley, Idaho. And you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Well, hi, Debbie. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
And you've been traveling all over the country, I think, since the last time. You know, we're lucky to catch you this time of the year because you are one busy lady.
Yes, I am very busy. It is, I'm enjoying the couple of days home that I have.
I know the last time we talked and you told us your schedule and it was like you touched down and it's almost like your husband probably has to grab you when you touch down in the plane, but otherwise you'll be gone again.
Well, and I'm home this week, and of course he's off at a jumping show in California. So I don't know. I feel pretty much like I'm not married at the moment than married.
Well, now tell us. Of course, we all know you're in Haley, Idaho, and we all know that you have named your little dog Haley, of course. And she went through a rough patch, I know, last year. How's she doing now?
She is actually doing fabulous. Thank you. She, was diagnosed with Addison's, and I give her just a small milligram of steroids, and that seems to keep her completely healthy. So far, so good. She travels everywhere with me.
Oh, that's wonderful. So she can travel with you then. So when you get around the country, you don't have to leave her at home.
No, I mean, for instance, if I go back east and I'm only going for 2 days, it's a pretty long trip for her, so I will probably leave her home. But this next bout of trips that I'm doing, I'm not really coming home in between, so I will take her with me.
Oh, well, we all know, we're all dog lovers, Debbie. We all know how important that is. Even if you have to leave your husband alone, at least take your dog with you.
That's for sure. At least he can understand, but she can't.
That's right. Well, Debbie, as I said, you've been really super busy with this developing dressage series of clinics, and I know you had one just last week, which sounds like it's going really well. I wanted to talk a little bit about that, Debbie, because we're going to have some of those young people on the show here, and I'm really looking forward to that because this is a group, while they may not be juniors or technically young riders, they are younger riders, and they're just making that step to the big league, aren't they?
Yes, they are, and like everyone, we need a little guidance, and this program is so far looking like we can offer that for them.
Tell us about the one that you conducted at Hamilton Farm recently over there in Gladstone. You had a couple of days with them.
Yeah, and that was actually the first time we started this talent search program. And the first day we had, I believe it was 13 riders that showed up, and I had left 3 open spots in the clinic. I was going to invite 3 riders from the talent search into the regular developing clinic. And Ann Gribbons actually was there with me to kind of oversee the whole thing. And we were both very impressed with the turnout and the quality. And it ended up that, it was pretty hard to decide. I mean, I could have made a clinic from all 13 from the talent search day, but since I was only allowed to choose so many, I did end up, Anna and I talked about it, we did take 4 instead of 3. So I ended up doing 9 in the clinic instead of 8. But it was very successful, great talent, very hungry hungry riders, and it was just really a great experience.
And what sort of age group were they then, Debbie?
Well, I had a couple of Brentina Cup riders, and then I had some people that are probably in their late 20s, I would say, and maybe early 30s, and all of which, have very, very interesting horses. And if we can keep, these people on a path and keep them with, some good instruction, most of them do have good instruction, and some are in areas that they don't have that ability. So that's always going to be a challenge. That's, for sure.
Yeah, really. And, that is kind of an age group. I guess, if you're professional and you feel like you've served some kind of apprenticeship, you've done juniors and young riders, and it's just crossing that bridge, isn't it, into, what next. Sometimes you just need that bit of help. I think this is a terrific program.
Yes, I do too. And like I said, I think it's going to take a few years to really get all the kinks worked out. But so far, it's been well received, and we've had some great combinations in all the ones I've done. So, we just have to keep building on that. And this talent search part is, I think, going to serve to be a very important factor in the whole program.
Well, we should mention that 4 riders, that you said you got down to 4 riders there. We are going to get them all on the show here at some point, Debbie. We'd just love to have these younger people come on and tell us their stories, because, they each have a story as to how they got where they are now and where they want to go. So those 4 riders will, over the next few weeks, come on here onto the Dressage Radio show and tell us their stories. That's going to be Laura Graves, Justin Hardin, Teresa Butter, and Brandy Benedict. Now, are they from all over the country, Debbie, or are they just mainly from the East Coast?
No, I had some come as far as Florida, and then I think there was Maine, quite a few. I mean, from that, they travel distances. I would say that it wasn't all from very local. Okay. So it was exciting to see that.
Well, great. Well, if you listen to the Dressage Radio show, we always encourage juniors and young riders to come on the show here. We do have a regular segment with Mary Lauritsen, who has a young rider segment, but we always want to hear from you. So if any of you riders took part in this talent search or the dressage clinics with Debbie, all you have to do is contact me, chris@horseradionetwork.com, and I'll be sure to have you come on the show. Well, Debbie, we've got all kinds of news this week, and I just want to start off with one important announcement that just came from the FEI Dressage Committee, and that was a recommendation from them to wear protective headgear, and that comes to all competitors to encourage you to wear properly fastened safety helmets. Don't just put them on your head, but be sure to fasten them as well when in training and in pre-competition warm-ups at all international dressage shows. And those riders, of course, are encouraged to do that, but they will still have a choice of wearing protective headgear in the actual competition arena itself. And now this follows on, Debbie, from the U.S. Dressage Federation. Of course, they recently announced their support of this move to get all riders to be wearing helmets. Are you finding that this is, when you're out and about, Debbie, that more people are paying attention to this advice?
Yeah, I would have to say I wasn't so impressed with the people following still in Europe, but hopefully now with this coming out, it will start. There's a few, there definitely are a few, but I would still say the majority are not wearing helmets during the warm-up. So, hopefully we can make a difference here, because it certainly has proven to save lives and brain injuries.
Well, it certainly is, and as we mentioned on the show last week, your good friend, of course, Gunther Seidel, took a very bad fall over there in Europe, fractured his pelvis, but he also had a collapsed lung, punctured his lung, and was back in ICU, I think, recently to drain that collapsed lung. But as we pointed out then, Debbie, as you know, he was wearing a helmet.
Yes, he was, and that right there in itself just really makes you wonder. I mean, if a horse can unseat Gunter, then I think we all should pay attention.
Yes, absolutely, because he's very long in the leg, and when he wraps his legs around a horse, he's going to take some shifting, isn't he?
Yeah, for sure. So, I wish him well. I'm texting him constantly, and I hope he can get home soon.
Absolutely. Well, we send our best wishes to him, and I'm sure when he's ready, we'll get him back on the show. He's been a guest in the past, and I would love to have him back on when he's back on his feet and is feeling sociable again, and past the pain as well. Hopefully, you'll be back here and pain-free.
Yes.
Well, Debbie, it all happened at Rotterdam last week at the CHIO. Yet more scores in the 90s there. Did you see that Totulus got 90.14% in the freestyle?
I know. It seems like every time we're talking, we talk about this.
Isn't that right?
I know. I mean, I just can't believe it. But yes, it's pretty amazing.
It really is, and there was a 7-point difference between him and Adeline Cornelissen with Parsifal, 83.93, which is nothing to be ashamed of, is it? But it's an enormous difference still. It
really is. I mean, when you see them in person, I mean, there is no doubt if both horses go, in my opinion, at their best, he still is in a league of his own.
Yeah, he's going to be very, very hard to beat. But it was a Dutch 1-2-3 there at the Rotterdam CHIO. As I said, Totulus topped the leaderboard there with 90.14, with Adeline Cornelissen in second place on 83.93, followed by Imke Schellekens-Bartels on 81.25 with Sunrise. None of them too shabby there, Debbie, really.
Not at all. Not at all.
And of course, not surprisingly, the Dutch won the Nations Cup over there, and that was Adelinde Imke and Hans-Peter Minderhood, who joined Totulus and Edward Garl to take that Nations Cup title from Germany in second place, and then Canada. Robert Dover's squad were third with an average of 67.244%. As we get into the summer, we just, less than 100 days away now. I think it's like 95 days from WEG, Debbie.
Oh, really? I haven't been counting, so I'm glad you let me know.
Well, the only reason I can be that precise, and it's as of today, because last Thursday we celebrated the 100-day event countdown for the Alltech FEI World Equestrian Games. It was a live event that took place in downtown Lexington here with lots of celebrities, people that are involved with the games locally, and we also had a delegation from Normandy. Of course, we'll be hosting the 2014 games. They were in town to celebrate with us. And I was honored to be hosting the live event, which was live on the internet for Alltech. We covered the whole event for 2 hours, the celebrations and lots of interviews too. And that's at alltech.com/games if you want to watch that 2-hour celebration. It was a party spirit in downtown Lexington, and I think just reminded us all, Debbie, that it really is just a couple of months away now.
Yeah, it is. It's coming on us very fast.
It really is, and it's heating up here in Lexington. I have to tell you, we're in the 90s now, so I think we're going to be ready for the September and fall temperatures by the time WEG comes around.
Well, let's hope so. It's going to be hard enough being in Gladstone in August, so I think the horses would be very happy if it was a little bit cooler when we got to Lexington.
Tell me, does it get very hot in the summer in Idaho, Debbie, or are you high enough to be above that humidity?
Oh, we can get in the 90s, but what you have to remember here is we're basically considered high desert, so there is not any humidity. So even if it's that hot, and being in a mountainous area, it's always down in the 40s during the evening, so it's quite quite lovely, I must say.
Oh, that sounds very attractive. You wouldn't want to trade, would you, for a couple of months?
I would like to trade, so I'm here.
All right. Well, I want to take a little break here to hear from our friends over at Kentucky Performance Products. But when we come back, I'm delighted to tell you that we have an update on Courtney King Dye from her good friend Lyndon Gray. So don't go away. We'll be back in just a second.
Hi, Glenn the Geek here. Choose Kentucky Performance Product Supplements because the horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. This week I want to speak with you about Elevate Maintenance Powder. Horses consuming limited grass due to a busy competition schedule or because of diet restrictions may not be getting enough natural vitamin E. Horses in rigorous training, seniors, broodmares, and stallions often require additional levels of vitamin E to meet their needs. When you need a supplement with natural vitamin E, choose Elevate Maintenance Powder. Affordable, effective, and research-proven, Elevate Maintenance Powder's vitamin E is nature's most powerful antioxidant, protecting your horse on the cellular level. Elevate Maintenance Powder supports the strong immune system and healthy muscle function necessary for top performance. It's affordable and easy to feed, and you can learn more about this and all their products at kppusa.com. That's Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, Lyndon joined me the other day to give us an update on Courtney King Dye, and I know that you had the opportunity to visit her in her rehab facility over there in New Jersey, Debbie, when you were over there recently.
Yes, actually, when we, Anne and I actually went over to see her, and she was at the Residence Inn. I guess that she goes there on the weekends. So her friends and her dogs and her family can be over there, and she still goes to the facility in the evenings to sleep, but gets to have the day off from her, very busy schedule of therapy, and gets to be with family and friends. So that's where we actually went to visit with her.
Terrific.
It was really quite a treat, and what an inspiration.
She really has the motivation, doesn't she? And I was delighted with to hear from Lyndon. So let's share that with everybody, Debbie. Hi, Lyndon. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you back because I know you've got some really good news about Courtney's progress.
Well, perhaps the most exciting news is that hopefully on this Thursday she will be released from inpatient as an inpatient at Kessler, and will be an outpatient there, where she will be at Kessler 4 days a week, and working from staying in a hotel and doing her therapy there, and then will be able to go home for 3 days. So that's incredibly exciting. She's in her rehab. She is with assistance, able to walk. Little assistance, mostly just, and it's slow and it's labored, absolutely. And she can, the last time I was there, not too long ago, she was telling me about her work going up and down stairs. They had in the rehab a 4-stair little flight of stairs, and she has to use a railing, of course, and it's slow. And the part she said was sort of the most difficult was the turning around at the top, keeping her balance and getting her legs to move that way. But that day she had done it 3 times up and down those 4 steps. Her speech is still labored, but very understandable. And her spirits are still unbelievable. She is absolutely remarkable in her determination, her sense of humor, her looking at her situation, looking it in the face, taking it as it is. Obviously, who wouldn't be a little upset by it and frustrated by it, but not letting it get her down and just saying, this is what it is, and I'm going to make the very best of it. She has, she was first when we talked about doing therapeutic riding, which so many people have asked about. She just felt, that wasn't for her. She was a big-time rider, not to be in that situation. But now she absolutely understands its value, and is looking into doing that fairly soon. and has come to understand the value of those horses, and that's their job, and they understand her situation and will take care of her and her situation. So hopefully, before too long, she will be also on a horse in a therapeutic riding situation.
Well, that's just amazing progress, Lyndon. And I know she's had a little bit of a struggle with the left and the right side. Tell us how they're doing now. The lefty and righty, I think she calls them.
Yes, and lefty, of course, its main job is learning to do all the things that righty used to do, such as writing and working on the computer and brushing her teeth and all those things. But righty, when I was there a few days ago, she could lift it straight above her head, almost straight above her head. She can move it left and right. She still has a hard time rotating it, so it's improving. And of course, her right leg goes along with it, is improving, as is proven by the fact that she's able to do some walking. So there's in everything that she does, there is improvement. There's still no way of knowing to what, how far back everything will come. We're all absolutely hopeful, and it's not unreasonable to believe that it will all come back completely. It'll be a long time. And you basically, with this therapy, you take it a day at a time and just keep looking forward. And that she's doing. She's just, it's unbelievable how hard she's working at it.
Well, she clearly has the determination in which is showing through, and I think that shows what a professional she is, what a champion, what a survivor, and not just never satisfied with enough. She just keeps pushing herself.
Exactly as she was as a rider, and we're often when we're talking, we're comparing her teaching her body to work correctly again with retraining a horse, and she's done that with such amazing success. Taken horses with problems and with her infinite patience and attention to detail brought them to the international level, and that's what she's doing with her body now. She's retraining it and using the same methods and mental discipline that she did with her horses.
And she's demonstrated that mental discipline by now updating her own blogs on her website.
Yes, and she would do it more often. The typing is difficult because, first of all, she doesn't have, she's in rehab so long, and then at the end of rehab, she's pretty tired each day. But it's, the typing with one hand, relearning how to do that at this point. So those updates take her time to get them done. And hopefully we're going to be seeing more and more of them as she gets, as her rehab progresses.
So she's able to have visits from her dogs quite regularly now, is she?
Oh, yes. Her dogs, they're not allowed in the building, but from the first day that she was up there at Kessler, they could bring the dogs and she could come down and meet them. And I've been there where we went out on the sort of edge of the parking lot where there's a field and just sit and chat and have the dogs running around the field. It's been wonderful.
Well, that's just fantastic news. And has she been able to? I know she's been home, hasn't she? Has she been able to visit her horses?
She went home once. She completely planned herself a surprise birthday party for her husband, and basically organized everybody. You're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing that. And but she hasn't yet been to see the horses. She's just had the one trip home to her own home.
Well, I'm sure that will come fairly soon, but she has a kind of, as you say, halfway house now with the hotel stay. Do they give you any idea of how long that would be, Lyndon?
I don't know that. I've only been looking to the point that she gets out, and at what point the rehab will become a little less, and they'll back off of it gradually, and I don't know beyond that.
Well, it's terrific progress every inch of the way, and we're delighted that you've been able to come and join us here on the show, Lyndon, and give us these updates. We really do appreciate that, Lyndon. And please send her our very best wishes from everyone at the Dressage Radio Show, won't you? And I know she's had the most incredible response from around the world, and she's been wading through her emails, hasn't she, that have been printed out for her?
She has 3 huge, sort of 4-inch thick binders of the emails that have been printed out. And maybe about 2 weeks ago was when she really started methodically going through them, and has just been amazed at the outpouring of love and best wishes and prayers from everyone. And she's wanted to make the point that there's no way, of course, she can answer all of these. And so she tries to, send the message on her own website and to answer everyone. I mean, there was no way anyone could answer all of those emails, but they are very much appreciated, and she's still getting through them. She's still getting through to the end of all those that have been sent.
Well, I know they keep coming, all those best wishes, and we'll do whatever we can to convey her wishes too. If she wants to tell you a message that we can share here on the radio show to fans around the world, because we're now in 42 countries, so there's a lot of people out there listening to this, Lyndon, who are obviously delighted to have these updates. Yep. So if she wants to use this as a vehicle for her message, we'd be delighted to share that, obviously.
I will take that to her, absolutely.
Well, thanks again for joining us, Linda. Send her our very best wishes, and thanks for the update. And you take care, have a great summer, and stay cool up there in New England.
Oh, absolutely. It's a beautiful day today. I wish it'd stay like this all summer. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Lyndon. Well, thanks again to Lyndon Gray, of course, Courtney's great friend who's been with her throughout, watching her progress and been a great supporter of her, and we really appreciate Lyndon giving us these updates. And as you said, Debbie, she has just such great spirit, Courtney, doesn't she? I mean, she seems to be absolutely determined. It's the Olympic spirit, wouldn't you say?
Oh, there's no doubt. And like I said, she has such a good sense of humor. I mean, we found ourselves laughing quite hard at a few times. And, she can laugh at herself. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just admire her so much. I always have, but even more so now. I just can't believe the drive and determination she has. And I just know that with that, she will get to where she wants to go.
Well, we will be following her progress, of course, and I know there's lots of people around the world here that are supporting her, and as we heard from Lyndon, that she has folders and folders of emails to, gosh, she could never be bored for reading, Debbie, with all the material that she's got, all the emails from people around the world, as Lyndon said. It's been an amazing outpour of support from the dressage community.
I know. It's been very, very nice to hear. I can tell you that is really, really great.
It's heartening. It really is. Well, thanks again to Lyndon. We'll keep you posted on Courtney's progress. And we're going to come to our guest, second guest this week on the show. But before we get to that, we have a message from Glenn the Geek.
Glenn the Geek here, and we get many emails every week from people who really like the shows, and they ask how they can help support the Horse Radio Network. Well, you already do that by listening to the shows and by buying from all of our fantastic sponsors. And now you can add to that by supporting us directly and very easily. The next time you need something from Amazon, just go to any of our websites and click on the Amazon banner in the middle of the page. Then go on and buy your Amazon items. It won't cost you a penny more, just an extra click. But Amazon gives us a little bit back just because you clicked on the banner. Tell your family and friends to do the same thing. Every little bit helps us to keep giving you the quality equestrian programming that you have come to love. Thanks for listening.
Well, thanks again to Glenn. And as I say, we're coming to our guest of the week now. Well, I'm joined now by Robert Dover, still in Germany on the tour there. Robert, you've had a busy time of it, and not least of all with the Canadian team, which we want to catch up with, but also visiting your good friend Gunther.
Yes, Dress, it's been a great 2 days spending time with Gunther in the hospital, and I'm really pleased with his progress and know for sure that he's going to be absolutely fine. So he was actually up and about today, making short walks from sort of one side of the bed to the other with his crutches, learning how to deal with the crutches, and he can only put weight on his right leg for the next 6 weeks. So
Wow.
it's a major undertaking to sort of like learn how to walk and then build himself up again. And it's going to be quite a long recovery over the next, actually the next half a year before he has the plate and the screws taken out again that are holding his pelvis together and mending them.
Wow. So was the fracture mainly on the left side then, Robert?
No, he had what was called an open book fracture of his pelvis. So if you can imagine your pelvis and then being like a book opening at the middle, it broke clean in half.
Oh.
And you know, there was a lot of tissue damage as well. And so this amazingly he ended up with one of, if not the finest surgeons, thoracic surgeons in the country of Germany, doing his surgery. And so, whereas other surgeons, it may have taken 3 separate surgeries to do the job, this one surgeon is so efficient and adept at it that in one surgery he was able to perform everything that was needed for Günther to be able to recover. And so the thing was actually that while he was in the ICU, he had come in with that fracture and also a collapsed lung. And when they put a tube in, you know, and intubated him, and then they took that tube out, and it probably too early because his lung collapsed again, and then earlier in the week, and then they needed to put the tube back in, and that caused him a huge amount of pain. So for a couple of days, he was just in really horrible pain. And by the time I arrived and got to see him, he had just had the tube taken back out, so he was so relieved. And between yesterday and today, he's just, you know, progressed really, really well.
Well, that's a relief to know. I know there's a lot of concerned friends and colleagues over here been following his progress. That must have been quite a buck to throw Günther off, because once he wraps his long legs around a horse, he would take some moving. It must have been quite a bucking spree that he went on.
I think so. I think that, you know, it was sort of a combination of the fact that the horse had flown over and had not had any exercise, and it's just one of those things that, you know, a couple of different things happened at the same time, and Günther was just stepping into the stirrup and, you know, went for sort of a spree and ended up flying off. And fortunately, Klaus and Judith, you know, were right there, as well as his assistant, Fernando, and they trauma hawked him to the Münster hospital here. And and surgery was performed like right away. So he was very, very well taken care of, and continues to be very well taken care of. And now, of course, his mom is here, and he's been visited by a lot of friends, and the Balkenholz come daily. And so it's been, you know, he's not been without lots of care and lots of caregivers.
Well, lots of love and support. Well, that's really good news to know, and that he is turning a corner now. Do you have any idea, Robert, when he'll be able to fly again and come back to the States?
You know, it's hard to say, but one thing is for sure, he will not fly until a lung specialist approves him to do so. So they're going to, what they're doing now for the next few days is getting him more mobilized and moving him around a bit more each day and doing the physical therapy. And then after a few days, I think they're going to bring in a specialist who can take a look and make sure that his lung is able to withstand, the pressures from flying.
Of course, and not least of all his comfort level to sit for an extended period too.
Absolutely. Well, I think he will fly privately home, and
good.
So he won't need to worry about sitting. He'll be able to lay in a bed, but needless to say, no matter what, we've got to make sure that everybody's going to make sure that he is 100% fit for the flight.
Absolutely. Well, good to have your first-hand update, Robert, and we, of course, send him all our love and best wishes and for a very speedy recovery and not least of all getting back in the saddle in due course because
right.
That must have obviously disappointing, but when you're thrown out of the saddle for that length of time as a professional rider, Robert, yourself, it's incredibly disruptive, but we have to count our blessings.
We surely do, and also, the fact that he was wearing his crash helmet was probably something that saved him a much greater injury. So, once again, North Americans are really leading the way in showing that they are safety conscious by wearing their crash helmets.
Yeah, a fine example, as you say, and I think we are, from what I'm hearing, that it is not common practice for dressage riders in Europe yet. Are you seeing that, Robert?
I will say that the Canadians at every show have worn their crash helmets all the time when they are not in the main show ring itself. And I have also seen at least one Dutch rider wearing their crash helmet here at the show in Rotterdam. And so, I think that, and there was an FDI announcement today that strongly urges riders to wear their crash helmets while not in the main show arena itself at all other times. And so I think that, there's definitely sort of a wave, if not the tide turning toward people being more conscious of the fact that there's not one reason not to put on a crash helmet while one's on a horse. And, in one flash of a second, life can change, and we've seen that now again and again recently. And it certainly behooves us to really take heed of that.
Well, it certainly does, and there's a fine example of Gunther being probably saved from more serious injuries by wearing his crash helmet. Well, I want to turn to Rotterdam now, Robert, because, of course, you were there with the Canadian team, another outing for them as part of their European tour. How did it go?
I was very pleased with our results as being the third best nation, and so we ended up in what you would call a bronze position for the Nations Cup. So I was very, very proud of the Canadian team there, and we also had a third place in the Grand Prix Special, as well as 7th and 11th in the Grand Prix Freestyle. And so, it was a good show all the way around.
And so, what next for you? How will the riders still stay over there? They're going to go to Aachen, presumably.
Yeah, our next big outing for the squad will be Aachen. In the meantime, I'm taking a short break and going home for 10 days. And the horses are having a little downtime right now, although I'm going back to the farm tomorrow. We'll be doing some riding there from now until Friday. And so with each horse, we're treating each one as an individual. And then I will be back on the 5th of July to get back into full training and prepare for Aachen, which basically will go around the 13th, 14th to Aachen, and the show goes through the week.
So tell us all about all of the riders that you have there and what that schedule looks like now through to your fun. When do you actually finally name your team for WEG, Robert?
I think that the criteria states from Canada that the team will be named in the very beginning of August.
Okay.
And, of course, the tour finishes for this squad here directly after Aachen. However, there are some Canadians here as well as the squad, and they will be competing in other shows such as Viersen, Pompadour, and shows around Europe where they're trying to qualify. And of course, we have riders in North America that are also trying to qualify. And so in the very beginning of August, the team will be named. And then my plan is to do Saugerties in the middle of August. That I think a third week of August. And then in the on September 12th, we have a send-off to Kentucky benefit for our team up in Toronto, and so the team will be there, and probably within the next day or two after, they'll head down to Lexington, where we will be at the farm of Kathy Priest, and we'll have a training camp there to prepare to go then onto the showgrounds.
Terrific. Well, let's just go back to Aachen, and your riders in Aachen will be Ashley Holzer,
yes,
and Belinda Trussell.
Yes. Right now, the team is set as the team that went to Rotterdam. However, the final entries are not for until the 30th of this month, so I can't say that for certain that it will be exactly as it was. As always, what we try to do is do what is necessary for the horses and the riders to peak at the right times for each competition. And because we have quite a group of horses and riders, and the squad is larger than a four-person team, then we're just sort of holding off until we absolutely have to finally name the team.
Well, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Robert, you had a very creditable third place in Rotterdam behind Germany and then, of course, the Dutch who won.
Right.
The Canadians really are stepping up now. In fact, just to compare this with eventing, we've got David O'Connor, the American David O'Connor, training the Canadian event team. And between the dressage and the event teams now, the Canadians really are stepping up at a time when they're going to be just next door neighbours for the World Equestrian Games. It must fill you with excitement and confidence to see how well your riders are going now as you prepare them for their first major championship this year.
Yeah, I've been thrilled with the riders. I have to say, not only because they've done well, but because they are an absolute pleasure to deal with. I had, in all honesty, forgotten how great many of these Canadian riders are. And when you look at someone like Bonnie Bonello, for instance, riding, you see years and years of amazingly classical training in this woman, and just, all of the qualities that you look for in great riders are in so many of these Canadian riders. And so that's been a total pleasure for me. And, so the day-to-day work with them has been fun and inspirational. And, I love the challenge of trying to put things together and also, to bring them to the arena and making them feel like they have a great chance to succeed. That's, I think, the job of any coach. And as I've gone through my life, I've had, great coaches and some that weren't so great. And so, I try each time to do whatever is necessary to make my riders feel like they have a huge chance to do terrific in the arena.
Well, I think it's fair to say, Robert, that you've brought this team on to the point where they're going to be very serious contenders for a medal when it gets to Kentucky in the fall, and we want to wish you the very best of luck with them and on the rest of the tour. Enjoy your short break, because no sooner will you be past that and then on to Aachen, of course, always a great competition. You must be looking forward to going back there too.
I love going to Aachen. It's just, there's nothing like it. And my friend Frank Kemperman puts on the show of all shows. So, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to having a great showing from the team.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking time off to speak to us today, Robert. The very best of luck. Safe travels to you, and we look forward to catching up with you later in the year.
Thanks, Chris. Take good care.
Well, Debbie, tip of the week this week, I think you've got a brilliant idea. Tell us about this, having a plan and the importance of walk breaks. Just the very title there tells me what you have in mind and how important it is to have a plan before you get on the horse and not just make it up as you go along, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think everybody should be getting on the horse with some type of a plan that they want to work on that day. And I see so many times people that, and I think I've said it before, a lot of people that have a busy schedule and work that they only have so much time to ride, and they try to get everything done in a short amount of time. And in that process, never really giving the horse a proper walk break in between and giving the muscles a chance to get some oxygen in them and just, take a breather and have a time to think about it themselves. So, I always say that there should always be a walk break several times during your work, and make sure that if you make your 5 minutes, then should be a sufficient amount of walk time in between, not just one, but after a period of work, then a nice walk break, and also a time for you to reflect on how you think your work's going, and if you really think you need to work on that again, or if you thought that it was kind of getting the point across, and leave that alone for today and come back again another day to that subject. Because you can definitely, overdo that and not give the horse enough walk, which for me is not only important physically, but mentally.
Well, I think that's a good point. I was just thinking mentally how important that is, when a horse is, especially a young horse, absorbing a lot of information, to give them that mental break. I think about my own routine, my own work routine, and I take sort of just mini breaks in between sets of, whatever exercises I'm doing, because it just reminds me to stop. Am I doing it correctly?
Like I said, it's so important.
That's a great tip, Debbie. Thanks for that. Well, we have some email questions for you this week, Debbie, and the first one comes from Catherine, who says she loves listening to all of the radio shows. We're delighted to hear that, Catherine. And she says, although I'm not as familiar with dressage as other disciplines, I wonder if you could explain the show a tiny bit and have some definition of terms. For instance, she asks, what do we mean by riding your horse more uphill? How is that done? And can we show a short video of 3 different horses all being ridden more uphill on the page that the term is discussed? And what is the FEI definition, if there is one, of riding a horse uphill? Well, first of all, I should say, before I throw this back to Debbie, Catherine, we don't have videos. You probably could find them on YouTube. If you Google or go to YouTube, you will be able to find examples. Or you could go to the U.S. Dressage Federation, that's usdf.org, and they may be able to give you some video or point you to some videos that were made to demonstrate this. But the best we can do with radio is give a description, and who better to explain this than Debbie?
Well, thank you again, Catherine, for writing in. We do enjoy your emails. Basically, riding a horse uphill is that feeling that you really are more or less going uphill. That would be a horse that's more going in an open frame versus a horse that is being pulled down on the forehand and curled up in the neck. And this is a lot can have to do with conformation as well. If you have a quarter horse, for instance, that's built very downhill, then it's going to be a very difficult feat to ride your horse incredibly uphill. So a lot of it has to do with the conformation of the horse, for sure. And then the training, where you can get the horse more engaged from the hind end, and that gives the ability for the horse to stay a little more free and open in the shoulder, and gives that feeling of going uphill.
Yeah, and it's that I can't think of a better way to explain that, Debbie, than that uphill, just having your horse up in front of you.
It's correctly. I mean, that's very true.
Well, I hope that's helpful, Catherine. And I don't know if there's an actual definition, Debbie, from the FEI on this. I think it's more an interpretation, and the best way to describe it, isn't it, by calling it uphill?
That's right. As far as I know, there is not a definition. I think this is all part of their proper training, the development. And it's a term that we use to try to get the rider to understand a little more of the frame that we're looking for and the horse's engagement.
Terrific. Well, thanks, Debbie. And again, Catherine, check out the usdf.org. Contact them at the National Education Center, where they may have materials to help you better understand that and the definition of the terms that we use. Because that is certainly something we want to and translate for you. If any of you new to the sport, we don't want to be blinding you with acronyms and abbreviations, because it is a language in of itself, isn't it, Debbie? We use all kinds of things. We don't realize what we're saying sometimes, and
that's very true.
But we also have an email, Debbie, from Dawn Freiler. Dawn has written to us a few times, Dawn, and we really appreciate it. You have several really, really good questions and topics for us to discuss here on the show. Of course, you sent in several ideas, so we'll get to all of them eventually, but I want to begin with one that you have targeted particularly for Debbie's attention. When Debbie mentioned classical dressage a few weeks ago, Dawn asks, well, how does classical dressage differ from what we see now in the ring? And also, Debbie, apparently you mentioned in the show that it was disheartening to see the judges penalise horses whose heads are a tad beyond the vertical. Dawn would like to know why you find this disturbing and to learn really more about what you mean by that. So over to you.
Well, basically, first I have to say that since I had made this statement, being over in Europe this last trip, I was very excited to see how horses were being ridden. And it was more like what I was trying to explain about classical dressage, where a horse is much higher in the pole and a little more open in the frame. And that wasn't the way it was in the past. When I was showing, especially, there were many times that horses were being rewarded for being a little low in the pole and behind the verticals. So now, since this whole thing has come about with Roker, I have been pleasantly surprised at watching the warm-up in Europe is much more discreet about how they're warming these horses up, and it's much more in a classical way. And the horses are being rewarded for this. So for me, it is, I can almost retract that statement and say that things, in my opinion, are moving more into a classical way, which is very exciting.
Well, that is good to know. It is exciting too, isn't it, Debbie? I think you and I are both sort of the classical dressage school, and to see those principles not only used but rewarded by the judges in the dressage arena, I think it just speaks to a transformation in the sport and a positive direction for the sport.
Absolutely. I mean, I love to look at the old pictures, of the horses did well. I mean, it's such a different look than what we've seen in our sport, the way it's been going. And I think that I'm hoping that we're going a little back towards that classical way again, which, was how I was taught and I believe in. So it's very lovely to see.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, I hope that helps you, Dawn, and in the answering your question to classical dressage, and hopefully you'll make your observations too when you're watching international dressage, and in fact dressage at all levels, but particularly the role models that obviously you follow and you obviously enjoy watching people like Debbie, and there's still lots of videos out there of Debbie training too, so don't forget to check those out on YouTube. And your other questions, as I said to you in my email, Dawn, we will get to those in future shows, and thanks again for all those suggestions. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to send me an email, chris@horseradionetwork.com, with any questions or suggestions for me or any of our co-hosts here on the show. Well, we're coming towards the end of the show here this week, Debbie, but we have one announcement from Glenn the Geek. So let's hear from Glenn about a World Equestrian Games Bluegrass Medallion giveaway.
Hi, Glenn the Geek here. Don't forget to register today to win one of the official medallions of the Alltech FEI World Equestrian Games. Bluegrass Medallions has kindly donated this amazing set of medallions, a gold, a silver, and a bronze, worth over $500, and you can win one today. Just go to horseradionetwork.com to register to win. It's free and easy. We want to thank Bluegrass Medallions for the donation and the giveaway. That's horseradionetwork.com to register to win.
Well, we want to thank Bluegrass Medallions for donating those medallions worth over $500. And register again to win those at horseradionetwork.com. Well, as I said, we're coming to the end of the show here. I want to remind you all to follow our show notes at dressageradio.com or our Facebook fan page. Go over to Facebook and just search for Dressage Radio Show, and there we are. We post updates on the fan page. Not least of all, Twitter, we update that too, Horse Radio and Chris E. Stafford. And as I said, you can always email me, chris@horseradionetwork.com, with any comments, questions, and suggestions. If you prefer the phone, please leave a message at 270-803-0025. I'd like to thank our sponsors again for making this show possible, and also our crew, Glenn the Geek and Brian, who turn these shows out every week for you. I hope you will follow us again next week. I'll be back with Mary Lauritsen and another Young Rider segment on our show here, and looking forward to catching up with Mary again. And, great to have that Young Rider input, Debbie. It's great. We try and cover all aspects of the sport here, but I really get excited by the Young Rider element in the sport these days, as I'm sure you do.
Oh, that's true. They're our future.
They are, and you know what is exciting? When I look at the talent out there and talk to these young people, there's just such a growth in the sport in the junior and young rider ranks, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Does it surprise you what the following in the sport and the number of young people that are coming into the sport? Are you seeing the numbers increasing as you travel around the country?
A little bit. I still really would love to see, but I think, hopefully through the young rider programs and the developing programs, we can start to see even a larger following.
Absolutely. Well, we also appreciate what you're doing for those young riders too, with your developing riders clinics and of course with the talent search as well. So where are you off to next, Debbie?
LA, then back to New Jersey, and then I'm also going to the Developing Horse Championships in Illinois. So I'm going to be on the road quite a bit coming up here, and then off to the trials.
Absolutely. Well, you be safe on your travels, Deb. I hope you'll have time to join us again in a few weeks' time. I know how busy you are, but we always love to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always fun to be here.
Well, I'll be back, same place, same time next week. So until then...
Thanks for listening, and remember to practice safe riding by always wearing your helmet.